Hi, I'm Ian McAllister, and I'm off to the forest to become a vagabond.
I'm Sam Maggs, and I'm top cat.
And I'm Jamie Adams, and I need to learn how to run a woodland uprising properly. And this is Brainwaves, bringing you the best in board game and tabletop gaming news. These are the headlines for the week of the 4th of March 2019. The RPG industry faces up to abuse allegations. Are your dice really random? And yet more awards as France crowns its board gaming royalty. All this and more in this week's Brainwaves.
So we'd like to start this week's Brainwaves with a bit of serious news. Over the last couple of weeks, there have been statements put out by Zak Smith's former partner Mandy Morbid about the abuse she experienced during their time together. Now, if you're not familiar with Zak Smith, who also goes under the moniker Zak Sabbath or Zak S, he's a writer for a lot of D&D products, some OSR stuff, as well as a consultant on the current edition of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. The statement put out by Mandy Morbid makes for some pretty harrowing reading. We will link to it in the show notes, but it does come with a bit of a content warning about sexual abuse allegations and mental abuse, so do be careful of reading that stuff. Wizards have put out a statement recently saying they are going to remove Zak's name from all future printings of the books he was involved with. Mike Merles, the co-creator of D&D 5th edition, also put out a statement which, quite frankly, I can only call a non-apology. He claimed Zak was only really a playtester on 5th edition, which was true, but he was also listed as a consultant in the book, so that was a little bit disappointing to see. Other parts of the industry have also put out their own apologies. Kenneth Hite, for instance, who worked with Zak Smith on certain projects for D&D, put out an apology denying any future proceeds from books he worked on with Zak to Connections for Abused Women and Their Children. It's a Chicago-based domestic violence non-profit. Drive-Thru RPG obviously hosts quite a huge number of PDFs for the industry, and Zak Smith's work is on there. They've now said that they are going to put in any portion of revenue generated by Smith's works will be donated to RAIN, which is the Rape, Abuse and Incest National Network. They also said that it was up to individual publishers whether to withdraw those products or not from their site. And in the last sort of week or so, Gen Con had been deliberating what to do about these allegations, and they have now stated they are going to ban him from attending the event and stated he'll be removed if he turns up. The statements put out do make for very harrowing reading, and abuse of any sort in the industry should never be tolerated, and we've all got to be more aware of this kind of stuff and call it out when we see it, and we hope we can help raise awareness of these issues by pointing them out to people.
"2019 is well underway, and we've already got the first announcements of the awards seasons. France's board game equivalent of the Spiel des Jahres, the German-based Game of the Year, which holds a great accolade among board game designers, is the As d'Or, or the Golden Ace. The winners were announced recently, and like the Spiel des Jahres, is split into three categories. There is the expert games, the all-public games, and the children's games. The all-public As d'Or winner this year was The Mind from Wolfgang Warsch, who has had, let's say, a pretty stellar year with the release of Ganz schön clever. The Mind and the Quacks of Quedlinburg all have been doing sterling trade and also getting great reviews.
And he's also got his new game on Kickstarter, whose name temporarily escapes me, the one where you're meant to...
I believe it's something like Wavelength.
Thank you, Wavelength. Yes, that's the one.
Yes. Yep. The Mind is very contentious in certain circles, in that it is basically, you have a number of cards numbered 1 to 99. You have some in your hand, and you basically, without talking, have to put down all the numbers in order. To some people, that is not a game. To a lot of people, it's a fantastic game. I've not played it. I'm not going to comment on it. But
I've played it. I really enjoyed it.
There you go. Thank you very much.
I've played it.
But also, anyone who thinks it's not a game, you better come up with an absolutely airtight definition of what a game is then. Because that's the sort of thing of like, what is art? It's a really tricky thing to get.
If you would like to set your definition of what a game is, please send it to Ian McAllister, care of Brainwaves.
GiantBrainUK@gmail.com.
There we go. The Mind fought off competition from Shadows Amsterdam, Solenia, and Treasure Island. Now, the expert Asdor was won by Detective, a modern crime board game from Portal Games, designed by people including Ignacy Trzewiczek, famous from Robinson Crusoe and recently First Martians. Has been doing sterling work reviews-wise and sales-wise. Detective is a little bit like Sherlock Holmes Consultant Detective, in as much as you have a case and you have a whole place where to go, but this game, like a lot of modern games, also uses a companion app that helps along with it. Detective fought off competition from Sam's favourite Keyforge. And
I don't know where you're getting that from, but sure, we'll go with it.
And Spirit Island. 2 games that were doing very well this year as well. And over in the children's category, the winner was Where's Mr. Wolf? From Murray Fort and Wilfried Fort, published by Blue Orange in the EU, which fought off competition from Zombie Kids Evolution, the first legacy game for children, the dice game The Colour Monster, and the Pooh-themed card game Who Did It? So stay tuned, because Brainwaves will keep bringing you award nominations and winners as they come in.
So guys, your dice. Do you trust your dice?
They always try to kill me.
I neither trust or distrust. I'm very open to this debate. I think it's all a bit too much to go into a lot of the time. But carry on.
But yeah, there's been an interesting couple of tests recently to determine whether your dice are really that random. This has been flagged up by one of our followers on Twitter, shared with me today. So these were a couple of tests done using 10,000 rolls of a game science and a chess die, both D20s. And the results are quite interesting. We'll post the links in the show notes to the study so you can go and have a read of them, which basically showed that although the Game Science is a company that claims their dice are much more accurate than other companies' dice, although the Game Science dice was truer than the Chess's dice, it had a better sort of like we'd expect about sort of 500 results per number on that chart over D20. And although the Game Science dice got closer to that average over the course of all the rolls, it wasn't entirely accurate. And especially on the 14, it had much less results. And they think that's because of the way it's pulled out of the mold. Each D20 is pulled out of the mold. There's a little sort of imperfection on the 7 side, which is the opposite of the 14. So it's harder for it to roll onto that. They do emphasize in the study that most people will not see deviations at all during their play because they're only seeing hundreds of samples, whereas these sort of studies are seeing 10,000 samples. And another experiment that we'll also link in the show notes seems to show that as number of sides increases, the trueness of a dice goes down. So as you get more and more sides on a dice, it just becomes less true, just due to manufacturing more than anything. So yeah, the quest for the perfect dice continues. The quest for the perfect random dice roll. Basically, you can't have it effectively, and you probably shouldn't worry about it too much.
Guys, have you heard that?
Heard what?
Heard what?
The sound of more vaults being opened. More keys being forged.
Is this your favourite game?
He does love it.
Actually, no. And I don't know when this is going to stop, but sure, it's the best game in the world. No, so we've got more Keyforge coming along. We don't necessarily know when it's coming along, we just say second quarter, which for Fantasy Flight means it's going to come out. We've announced it, it's a thing we're making.
Next year.
But probably the next kind of 2-3 months.
I imagine we'd see it by the time UK Games Expo rolls around in June.
Absolutely, yeah. So more cards, a bit more of the same. So we're talking. I'll give you some numbers. Everyone likes numbers. We've just been talking about dice. We've got 204 brand new cards. No new factions this time round. We don't know about that yet, and obviously that's never been confirmed anyway. It's something a lot of people were talking about, and I think there's a lot of call for. But 204 new cards, with 166 cards of the original set being included in this new set to create a pool of 370 cards in the set, I should say as well, is called Age of Ascension. That's also to say, though, that they've said that the algorithm can essentially pull any card from any previous set that's ever been made into these decks. There'd just be a very, very low chance of that happening, but that is possible, which I like. Your deck, in 3 years' time, when there's 6, 7, 8 sets out, your deck can draw from any of those sets. It will predominantly obviously be using the cards that come in that named set, but it can include anything.
I'd imagine the algorithm would be set to make sure that the sets also have like a good, decent number of the new cards as well. That'll be part of their algorithm structure.
Yeah. They haven't really talked about anything crazily new. It's a lot more of the same. Just kind of new,
the star set's better value this time round.
It is indeed. So it is slightly cheaper than the original starter set. We're getting rid of pre-made decks in the starter set now. You just get 2 booster pack deck things like you normally would buy off the shelf. You get your 6 key tokens like usual, your chain tracker, damage tokens, amber tokens, some play mats, which is quite nice. So it's poster paper versions of the very, very nice mouse mat style mats you can get out there. And now something that's fantastic, because I don't see why this wasn't done in the original set, is they made power and stun cards, power and stun tokens now in this new set, because it just made no sense to kind of, I've got a card that says something like put 6 power +1 power things on this, and it's like you're just adding 6 cards to it. It seems really weird. Make it a load of tokens. So much easier. Yeah, there's not much else we can really say about this, really. It's just more Keyforge. We were wondering when it was going to come out. I think this shows that there's probably going to be about 2 to 3 cycles a year.
Something like that.
Which seems standard for any kind of collectible card game, really competitive thing.
Well, in companies taking over other companies' news, the sort of thing we have covered many times before, it is now the turn of a toy-based company, Funko, to get into board games. Funko has recently bought Forest Person Creative, was a company I was not really aware of, but they have made games like the recent Villainous game was them, Jurassic Park Danger, Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. They've all been involved with all those games. So obviously Funko have gone for a company that's producing games with a lot of franchises in there, which is something that Funko do a lot of. If you're not aware of Funko, they basically produce sort of little plastic dolls, for want of a better word.
Pop vinyl is their biggest seller. That's the thing that I think you go into Forbidden Planet, you go into any kind of geek store, and there will be a wall, even in like HMV and places like that these days. Yeah, it's the cartoony, oversized head plastic nightmare of your dreams. Yes,
they are the 21st century Beanie Babies.
I guess they are. So it's an obvious company for them for Funko to acquire, but it's interesting to see a bigger toy company sort of eyeing board games as a revenue stream.
Yeah,
and we'll see what comes out of it. Will we see Funko Pops in games?
Absolutely, we will. Of course, we will.
Yeah, like little smaller ones or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that.
There you go.
Now, from our introductions on this episode, you might have been able to guess that we have been playing a little bit of Root recently from Later Games. It's been doing sterling work all across the board games market. I do enjoy using that word, sterling work, don't I? But has been climbing up the Board Game Geek ranking, has been selling out rapidly, and now there is an announcement from Later Games that we are going to have a second expansion coming out very soon. No idea on what it's going to be called yet, but what we know is there are going to be 2 new factions joining the 6 already available.
We know what it's called. It's called the Underworld expansion.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But it doesn't have a triangular board, so Jamie's
no triangular
just
boards.
Doesn't know.
No triangular boards, not for me. The 2 new factions that are joining, shut up boys, are called the Corvid Conspiracy, and are a group of crows who are all about sneaky espionage, which is wonderful.
Are they a murder of crows?
They are a murder of crows.
Thanks, I'm here all week.
There you go. And the other one is the Great Underground Duchy, which is a labour of moles who allegedly act in a similar manner to the Marquise de Cat and the Eerie Dynasties combined. Root by Later Games is a woodland-based area control war game in which it's all playing cute animals. So, yeah, there's also going to be 2 new maps included in the underground expansion, which is a mountain pass and fighting around a great lake, which are hopefully play to the strengths of many of the factions, including the faction from the first expansion, the Riverfolk Trading Company. As well as both of these, there will also be a new card deck, according to Cole Verla, inspired by Cosmic Encounter.
Nice.
Which, according to Cole Verla, when pushed a little bit about it, was saying it's just a different ethos to the deck. The original one was quite slightly more conservative, if you will, and this one's maybe a slightly more aggressive deck. It is all coming to Kickstarter on the 14th of March, where you'll probably be able to buy the new expansion, a copy of the core game, the Riverfolk expansion, and they're in talks for a big box to hold all the expansions. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on this. I got Root fairly recently, if I may have mentioned beforehand. And yeah, I'm very excited.
We've all played it. We've all played it recently, and if you want to hear more about that, you can get that on our Idle Thoughts podcast on our Patreon.
Thank you, Ian. And also a reminder that later this year, there's an RPG of Root coming from Magpie Games. Again, it's coming to Kickstarter, and in it, every single one of the players will be playing Vagabonds.
Yeah, not sure about that. I mean, I like the war game, but I don't really have any kind of desire to explore that world on an RPG-ish kind of level.
Ian, the Rootiverse cannot be stopped.
Apparently not. Well, talking about games that might appeal to the kids, if anyone knows anything about the current sort of trend in TV, you'll have seen the series Stranger Things on Netflix, which is a cool little series, sort of reminiscent of E.T., Spielberg films, a little bit of sort of horror in there as well, that sort of 80s sort of vibe to it. And in the very, very first episode of season 1, the kids were all playing Dungeons and Dragons, which led to a bit of resurge in the game, and also has had a big effect on streaming and that kind of thing as well. Well, now you can also play the D&D Stranger Things starter set. I'm kind of surprised it's taken them this long to produce something like this, but you can basically pick up this box set and you can play as the characters the kids play in the TV series. You get a couple of Demogorgon minis in there, which maybe implies that the Upside Down will be somehow in the adventure. It's due out May the 1st, and yeah, it looks really good. It looks like it's another starter set. It's got that sort of Moldvay original red box kind of look to it. It's got dice in there, everything you need to get going in the game, and some advice on how to like take characters up to about level 5 or so and beyond.
From looking at the character sheets, I don't know if you just said this or it says it anywhere. Is this 5th edition that it's using or anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's using 5th edition rules, so it'll tie into the other products.
Yeah, I imagined it would, because it would just be a bit confusing to put out something that wasn't, and obviously 5th edition is a very kind of user-friendly, intro-friendly system
very
for people
popular,
to get into.
yes.
So, guys, I got a new Choose Your Own Adventure through the post.
Cool.
Again, Ian, come on, we've talked about this. You need to stop buying Choose Your Own Adventure games.
Can either of you read Spanish? Like 17th century Spanish.
I can barely read English.
I'm more of an
on the best of
18th century
days.
guy.
You're more an 18th century. Well, thankfully Google Translate can probably help out in this, because my new game book actually comes from the 17th century.
Thankfully, the internet reads Spanish. So
yeah, this
How long did
came
the
across
post
this
take to deliver it?
Came through a wormhole. It's fine.
it's a dimensional thing. Yeah, it doesn't actually cost that very much.
Yeah. We've got a dimensional gateway in the back, don't you know?
No, I didn't. I thought that was the
RPG Corner's built on top of like a burial ground.
Yeah.
And the fireplace is actually just like a... Don't worry, it's all quite complicated.
It's very complicated.
But it's
you want to
not
lie down.
dangerous.
We feed it an intern every now and again. It's fine. Anyway, so my new game book it's a weird one. It's so the game in question was discovered recently. It's a divinatory game based on a system of questions and answers related to the main aspects of life: happiness, success of marriage, success in business, the birth of a child, health, illness, etc. Each prophecy, expressed by a triplet in the vernacular, is a result of a playful mechanism that passes through the throwing of dice and a series of references from one prophetic section to another. So it was designed as a sort of entertainment to an extent. It's being scanned in currently, so you can have a look at it yourself, and we'll put some links in the show notes. But yeah, it's a fascinating thing. It's effectively a game book as we understand, like a choose your own adventure, roll dice, go to a page, read a thing, go to another bit, read a thing, and it basically tells you sort of a prophecy effectively of whether your life will turn out happy or not. And the reason that many of these didn't survive is apparently because the church objected to them when they came across them. And many of them were burnt, so this one's only just been rediscovered. Really fascinating little find.
Unlike the church.
And also worth a little mention while we're in our history, but the National Museum of Scotland has recently opened up 2 or 3 new exhibitions, an Egyptian, East Asia and a ceramics exhibition. I've just been to see them recently and they're all very good.
Same.
And the Egyptian one has got a few board game bits and pieces in there. It's got a Senet set, some dice, that kind of thing.
It's just good to see. We're talking about things that are items that are 3,000 years old, and it's a D6 and it hasn't changed.
Yeah, I seem to remember a couple of years ago there were some effectively D12s and D20s unearthed as well in various places. Different symbols, yes. Not numbers on them, but yeah. But these objects have been used in randomization and divination and games for centuries.
Also, an interesting piece of history is that Roman times and similar eras, dice weren't, for obvious reasons, were weighted, and they weren't truly random, because it didn't really matter, because people believed that the gods decided what the values of the dice were going to be.
So you didn't need game science tests or anything like that. The gods would warp them for you.
Gods would sort it out, man.
Simpler game science were kind of around like the 3 BC mark. Was that not when they were founded? No,
maybe.
I don't know.
I think you're a bit out. Yeah, so it's just a reminder that sometimes we can look backwards and see game stuff and learn from games in the past. And I keep an eye out on this kind of stuff because it's all really quite interesting. And maybe we can learn some lessons for games now.
We started off a little bit of a tour the other day. Thank you very much to the folks at Lucky Sparrow Cafe in Glasgow Southside. We had a good day of gaming on Sunday.
We did.
One of the first times in a long time that we've been able to meet up, the 3 of us, and actually just sit down and play games all day. A big player of the day was Root.
Yep.
We played a bunch of other stuff.
Played some Ruthless from Alley Cat Games. Great little pirate deck builder thing. Played Champion of the Wild from Big Imagination Games. That's really good. That was on our last cast as well.
And we played a prototype of a game by... what's his name, Sam? What's that guy? Scottish developer.
Mr. Monopoly.
Mr. Monopoly, thank you, yes. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
it was
thanks.
a game...
Don't call me Mr. Monopoly.
Prototype of a game by Ian McAllister, our very own.
I'm sure you'll hear stuff about that in the next few months. We had a great day. Very busy. Very great to see the cafe really busy and buzzing with people. Really good array of games there if you want something serious, if you want something really light and chill. And
if you want something really stupid, there's also the Trump and Gladiators board games.
There is. Really good to see people playing a wide variety of stuff as well. We're sat there playing Root, and there's 4 guys on the table opposite us playing a Kill Team campaign, and then there's people playing Cards Against Humanity and stuff like that. So a real good eclectic array of gaming going on.
And not just board gaming, there's also a thriving tabletop RPG community there as well. There was a friend of mine who was down there who was running a game of Numenera, which is is that the Fantasy Flight one?
No, that's someone else. Can't remember.
Sorry.
Monty Cook Publishing.
Quick shout out to Dice Roll Cafe as well. We tried to make it along, but time and me and Ian living on the other side of the country all got in the way. But I'm sure that's probably our next stop for the 3 of us meeting up and playing games.
Yeah, definitely want to get through to one of the Dice Rolls.
I will definitely be at Dice Roll hopefully fairly regularly. Dice Roll is in the CCA in Glasgow on Sauchiehall Street. It's it's fortnightly Sundays and hosted by the wonderful Kenny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been meaning to get through to Dice Roll for a while, so that's really good. And later in the year, we are going to be at, myself and Jamie certainly going to be at Games Expo. We're all 3 of us should be at Tabletop Scotland. You'll find me on the playtest stall because I will be there running that.
You'll find me and Jamie deep within a game of Rhino Hero Super Battle, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. The stakes will never be higher.
Or neither will the tower. Hey,
exactly.
And hopefully later in December I will be at Dragon Meet. I was hoping to get to Aircon this year as well, but that's just not going to happen. So hopefully get down to Aircon next year. yeah, that's all what we will be doing over the next little while. If you have got cons that you would like us to have a look at and maybe come along to, then please do get in touch. We're always interested in meeting new people and playing some games and doing sort of convention-y things.
Guys, I've been digging, and
In the garden?
I finally
I saw there's a big hole.
I finally found it.
Found what, sir?
Treasure?
More Monopoly news. We've got like 3 pieces of Monopoly news. First one comes straight from the hearts of everybody across the country. The Donkey Sanctuary in the UK, charity for donkeys, has announced their own Monopoly board. Obviously, different edition of Monopoly here. I don't really get what's going on. By the looks of things, like the stations are tractors or vehicles. I think, the locations are like... Instead of paying tax, you have to feed Bill, who presumably is a donkey. You've got to buy straw instead of paying tax as well. It sounds a true evolution of the well-loved game.
It's all about the journey of a donkey from the first day of new arrivals unit, moving to a new home is the final one. So it's all about a donkey's journey.
And
no, it's
money.
Not.
It's all about
it's
money.
A different Monopoly board.
Anyway,
It's
the
not
next
about
one,
anything.
I'm sure, is going to sell like hotcakes. It absolutely has to. It's a new edition of Monopoly Gamer that kicked off that series with Mario, I think 1 or 2 years ago now. Overwatch is the next one.
Definitive version.
Yeah, Overwatch Collector's
That's going to sell like hotcakes.
edition.
Lots of little miniatures of the Overwatch characters.
Yeah, there's a bunch of miniatures. It looks like
fast.
there's some custom dice in there as well. Like that actually will just be a crazy seller.
It does look pretty good. And of course, I said earlier that Talisman would be rearing its head again, and it is. Talisman Monopoly.
Yeah, we had 40k Monopoly announced last year. We spoke about that. Of course we did. All your best Monopoly news, please come to the end of Brainwaves.
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell listeners to only listen to the end of the podcast.
I like the fact that this segment started off as just silly news. And I think the very first one was like, there was a game that you could play with potatoes. And you put little bits in potatoes and they were your miniatures. And now it's just Talisman Monopoly's happening. Yeah, that's a thing. Again, we've got no... That's the news. Talisman Monopoly is happening. That's all we know.
Definitive version.
Be. Hey, spend your big dollar bucks, guys.
I hear it's got a regular triangular board.
Nice.
Yeah,
I was hoping they'd bring that back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotta love them triangular boards.
But anyway, we'd like to give a shout out to our executive producers of the Lucky Sparrow Gaming Cafe. Thank you very much for your continued support. And if you would like to get access to an extended version of this cast and our Idle Thoughts podcast, which is about all the games we have played recently, that goes out about once a month, you can join up with our Patreon. $1 a month gets you the extended cast. $2 a month gets you into our Idle Thoughts exclusive club. We'd very much like your support, and it helps us pay for the podcast and hosting and that kind of thing, and will eventually hopefully pay for us getting to some extra cons and that sort of thing down the line. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you've listened to, then the best way to help us out is to just share the podcast around Twitter, Facebook, whatever your social media platform of choice is, and drop us a review and rating on iTunes if you are a member of that church. You can also follow us on Twitter at The Giant Brain, Instagram Giant Brain UK, Facebook The Giant Brain. Our website is giantbrain.co.uk, and you can email us with any thoughts, requests, that kind of thing for the show on giantbrainuk@gmail.com. And please do get in touch to let us know what you'd like us to talk about in future brainstorms. If you've got tasty bits of news to share with us, just get in touch. And we also have a guild on Board Game Geek. If you just search for The Giant Brain and Brainwaves, you will find us, and you can join in with conversations there as well. Thank you very much.